Hello everyone, I am back once again with another Wi-Fi match for Sword and Shield. And if you watched my last match, then you should know that this is my week 2 match for the SDA League actually. Once again, the reason why I'm labeling this as a standalone match is because, like I said before, I kind of have no interest in draft leagues anymore. Like, I don't really care to treat these matches like draft leagues anymore. So, but I still want to showcase the matches because sometimes the matches can be quite interesting. So, yeah. But, yeah, so here's my opponent for this week. It's actually a guy named AceOfHearts, which is kind of interesting. Kind of reminds me of an opponent that I actually played in Smash Bros. Ultimate. It was in a tournament. I think their name was, like, Broken Aces or something like that. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, is this the same guy? But I kind of doubt it, honestly. I don't think they play Pokemon. But regardless. So you already saw my team when I picked it, obviously. It's actually a team that I wanted to believe was actually, good for this guy's team. I don't remember what his draft was though, so I'd be lying to you if I told you that I knew anything. But like I said before, I'm actually just going to treat this match like, like any old match. If I remember something, obviously, then obviously I'll point it out, but if not, then I'll just keep things going the way I usually do, so be what it be. Anyways, the teams are as follows. So you can see that my opponent has a Mudsdale. He has the God Bulu. He has Volcanion. And I forgot what this mon is called. It's a brand new mon. It's from Generation 8. And it's probably the only Generation 8 mon that he has on his team because everything else is pretty much Gen 7. So this is feeling like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon again for some reason. Hell, I even have a Decidueye on my team, so definitely. And yeah, so anyway, so he has Tapu Koko and Celesteela as well. Scary mons for sure. Especially because I don't remember what the stats were for this thing, but yeah, I think at the time I didn't even know what this thing could do either, so I just kind of had to guess. I don't remember. I think I might have actually looked it up quickly, like during the match, but I don't remember. So I don't remember the stats for this either, honestly. But I just know that at the time I didn't really know what this thing could do. Because of that, I was also uncertain of my lead, so I just decided to lead off with Sylveon on the off chance he wants to lead off with Mudsdale and set up rocks or something. Although I think he could do that with Celesteela as well, though, so maybe this was a bad idea. Either way, I'm usually very bad in Sword and Shield anyway when it comes to battling, so I mean, me making these types of decisions shouldn't be anything new to anybody. But anyway, so yeah, here we go. So my opponent here is going to lead off with Mauna Loa, which is this Volcanion thing here. And yeah, I'm going to lead off with Sylveon, obviously. This is not a good matchup for me because Sylveon can't really touch Volcanion. I don't got Shadow Ball. And yeah, that thing most likely has either Sludge Wave or Sludge Bomb. So I decided to just go for the Baton Pass right here because I don't want to hard switch in anything. This is also on the off chance he like tries to double switch on me or something too, because in draft leagues players are like that where they double switch a lot. So he does go for the Sludge Bomb, unfortunately. Gets the poison as well, which, yeah, it's kind of to be expected given my RNG luck in this generation. But nonetheless, the Baton Pass is in order. So here what I'm going to do now is, I believe, send in Raikou because it's a slow pivot. And this will definitely scare away the Volcanion here. And if he decides to stay in, it'll take some brutal damage from Thunderbolt. However, something worth keeping in mind here is that this guy does have Mudsdale, which is immune to electrical moves, so I was low-key wanting to go for the Scald here, predicting that. However, I decided not to and just go for the Volt Switch because I kind of didn't want to risk things too early, because then that could just make me predictable for the rest of the match, I feel. Or at least from my personal experiences, that's how it always plays out. I try to make these risky plays early on, and then people just catch on to it real quick, and then they just end up outplaying me several times over, and I'm just like crap slinging it. So, yeah, no. Obviously, I didn't want to risk it. Unfortunately for me, he does end up switching into the Mudsdale, though, so I have to hard switch out here myself into the Decidueye, taking possibly a Heavy Slam or whatever he has for Decidueye. So here, what he goes for instead is actually the Substitute, which is low-key kind of good and kind of makes me wish I stayed in with the Raikou just to get some damage with the Scald, but I didn't want to lose Raikou very early since that thing could be useful for the Volcanion later on. So yeah, obviously I didn't want to risk it, basically. Here he tries to go for a Toxic, which does miss, and this might have mattered actually. And I'll get into later on why that might have mattered. But for now, yeah, bottom line is that it missed, so that's good for me. So now I can just stay here and either try to predict it switching out and go for U-turn, or just go for the damage and just go for Leaf Blade, honestly. Spirit Shackle was also an option, given that whatever he switches out, he will not be able to switch it out again, so he cannot double switch on me. So this was basically to prevent him from double switching on me, which is actually not a bad thing, honestly. Especially because right now what he sends in here is the Celesteela, which, yeah, it will not appreciate this Spirit Shackle whatsoever, which is fine with me. It does take it relatively well, but it did a lot more than I expected, honestly. I expected it to take the Spirit Shackle a lot better than that. So I was actually kind of like pleased in a way. So here I'm actually gonna, I think, switch back into Raikou, because I was kind of anticipating a Heavy Slam again. However, here he's actually gonna turn out to actually go for the, what's it called, the Air Slash here, which thankfully I resist. So this thing could have Earthquake too, so that was a risk I was kind of exposing myself to here. So, but I decided to just go for it anyways. Again, this guy was kind of playing it safe early on, just like I was as well. So I kind of wanted to believe that maybe he wouldn't go for it here, and that's exactly what happened. So here I decided to go for the Scald in case he tries to switch back the Mudsteel, because, you know, Mudsteel is kind of like an easy switch into Raikou if they don't have the Scald move. I also don't know how familiar these opponents are with Sword and Shield, so I kind of wanted to bank on that too, honestly. Maybe they're not familiar with it, so they maybe won't expect Scald on Raikou, but I think this was actually kind of typical on Raikou at the time. So I'm not really sure though, but either way, he hard switches in the Tapu Koko, and it doesn't appreciate it because I actually do get a crit and a freaking burn on this Tapu Koko, which is actually really, really nice because it's been a while since I've gotten this kind of RNG in my favor. So here, yeah, the Tapu Koko is now on a timer, thankfully, because, yeah, it only dies in one more turn. So, but here, what I wanted to see was if I should switch out, because, yeah, this thing could go for a Dazzling Gleam, and Dazzling Gleam will hurt. I think here I was trying to see if there was anything I could switch into. Maybe even the Scissor, expecting the Dazzling Gleam. But like I said before, I don't want to send that thing all willy-nilly, especially since he has the God Bulu. And if he goes for electrical moves, it might even one-shot my Scizor, which I don't want. And I don't want it crippled either, because I need that relatively healthy for the God Bulu. So, yeah, naturally I'm just going to stay in, I think. He goes for the Volt Switch. I think I myself just went for another Scald because I was actually choice locked into this thing. Because, yeah, my Raikou's choice specs, if you didn't saw it earlier. But, yeah. So here my opponent is going to send out this thing, the God Bulu. So this thing obviously is kind of scary. I remember this thing being something of a threat back in Sun and Moon days, but it does have a lot of weaknesses. The problem is that I just need to get myself in a position where I can send them in. And right now what I have on my team is the Scizor. I went for the Scald here because I wanted to just finish off the Tapu Koko, but sending in the God Bulu was actually not a bad idea, since I could, you know, possibly have a chance at burning this thing, and I did. So now the God Bulu is not so godly anymore. So now I can actually just send in Scizor all willy-nilly and not have to worry about any like setup or anything like that. At least not yet anyway. So here, I'm just waiting for my opponent. I think after getting this burn, I think this guy's probably thinking, oh my god, this guy's so lucky. But truth be told, I haven't had this kind of RNG in a long time. So right now, I'm just relishing this moment. So here he's going to go for a Horn Leech. Probably anticipated me to either stay in, trying to go for a different move, but nah. I decided to just switch in the Scizor right here, because I know that Tapu Bulus can't really do much to Scizor anyway. The most he can hit me with is probably either Stone Edge or Super Power, so... And both of those moves have their trade-offs. One can miss and the other one just leaves you vulnerable for another turn. It will force you to switch out even, if necessary, and that can actually put me in a favorable position if I'm good at anticipating their next move or whatever. So here he's going to switch out the Bulu because he doesn't want to take any damage. I think I myself just go for the U-turn expecting this, because I figured I don't think he wants the Bulu to lose to a Bullet Punch. So yeah, I just go for the U-turn right here. I do a decent amount of damage to this thing, which is nice. Before this thing activates its stamina, which raises its physical defense by a stage, which is kind of insane. I'm actually surprised this Mon isn't as good as it could have been, honestly, given this ability. But I think it's because of its lack of variety in moves. Because I think it only gets Earthquake, and then from there it gets like Close Combat or Heavy Slam, and I think that's it really. I don't even think this thing gets Stone Edge. I could be wrong on that though, but I don't think it does. I honestly don't remember since, again, it's been a while since I've been following the meta. In fact, I don't even follow it anymore. So here I'm going to go for the Leaf Blade with Decidueye here, because Decidueye is actually a decent answer to Mudsdale. Even if he switches it out, I'd be able to hit anything on his team really, really hard. Even if he wanted to switch it in the God, Bulu, I could just hit it with a Spirit Shackle later on. Not to mention, the only thing it could hit me with is the Play Rough, and right now because it's burned, I want to believe that Decidueye will take it fairly well. Not to mention, the grassy terrain is also activated, so this just allows Decidueye to even resist a lot more hits more reliably, I'd say. So here he's going to switch out to the Celesteela again, which is fine. Leaf Blade doesn't do anything to this thing, and because I know now that this thing has Air Slash, obviously I don't want to stay in. It's also good to know that this is not like a Leftovers or Weakness Policy variant. It's just a Rocky Helmet variant of Celesteela. So here I'm just going to switch out because I don't want to, take any attacks from this thing. I think I end up switching into the Raikou here. Well, I actually go for the U-turn, never mind. I go for the U-turn. I thought I hard switched, but no, it was actually the U-turn I went for. Then I send out a Mon. I think the Mon I sent out was the, I think it was the Raikou again. Because I wanted to see if this guy has the Earthquake. If he did, then he did, obviously. It would suck. This was a risky play, I think, in retrospect, but it was one that I decided to make anyway, because I just wanted to make stuff happen, honestly. I didn't want this match to go to time, so I just had to make my moves as quickly as possible. So, yeah. Here, he's going to go for the Heavy Slap, thankfully. So chances are that he doesn't even have the Earthquake on this Celesteela, which means Raikou would be better off just, going off the rails and stuff like that with its attacks and all that stuff. The only thing it needs to worry about is Mudsdale, really. But I have Scald for that. And since it took damage prior, chances are I could even two-shot that thing at this point, if not one-shot it. But yeah, here, nonetheless, I decided to just go for the Scald right here. I was debating if whether or not I should go for the Volt Switch, expecting maybe the God Bulu. But nah, it wasn't necessary. Because you're going to see right here that I think he doesn't actually end up staying in once again. I think he hard switches out yet again. And I think he switches into the what's it called, Tapu Koko, just to sack it. Makes sense because this thing is weakened and can't really do anything at this point. The reason why he sends in the Tapu Koko is actually interesting because he wanted to set up the electric terrain for that one Mon that he has in his team, the electrical Mon. I forgot what its name was called again. It was called Raigeki or some shit like that. I don't remember the name of this Mon. It's a very weird name, but it is what it is. And it's a Generation 8 Mon too, so remember that in Generation 8 there's like a lot of Mons that I wasn't really familiar with. And a lot of these legendaries are just Mons that I just don't remember them at all, basically. Down to the names even. So this thing. So I decided to actually just stay in and go for Skull just to get some damage off on this thing. I wanted a Volt Switch, but I kind of forgot again that I was choiced with this Raikou. It's because I haven't been feeling the need to ever switch it up either way. So yeah, here I just stay for just to get some damage with the Scald. This thing turned out to be a lot faster than Raikou, which actually surprised me. And not only that, but it actually takes me out with whatever electrical move it just went for right now. I think it was the Rising Voltage or something like that. I don't remember, but it was a move that took me out, which actually to me was surprising because it resisted, like Raikou resisted electrical moves. I know it's electric terrain, but or it's under electric terrain, but I didn't think it would, be taken out that easily regardless. Maybe this attack is a physical move, but I'm not really sure. Either way, I was put in a situation where I was like, okay, I think this is the opportunity for me to send in Conkeldurr so that I can... Well, I wanted to Drain Punch initially, but then I had to remember that he has the Mudsdale still, and I kind of wanted to knock off whatever item that had. He also has the God Bulu, which if he wanted to send that in as well, I can, just try to like knock off whatever item that has, in case it's like some kind of like, I don't know, Choice Band or something. Although, based on the damage from Hornleech on the Scissor, it doesn't look like it is though. But who knows, it might be Muscle Band or something. Either way, I decided to just go for knockoff instead and just knock off whatever item it had. It had a magnet too, so that combined with electric terrain combined with stab, I guess it makes sense now why it was able to take out Raikou from where it was at. Plus it took damage to it. It's not like it was at full HP either, so yeah. Either way, This knockoff did a lot of damage, so this allows me to just Mach Punch it. I was actually afraid I wouldn't be able to take it out with the Mach Punch, and then right there I would have been in serious trouble. So I'm glad it actually took it out. Now here with this this Celesteela here, because my Conkeldurr was weakened now at this point, chances are it doesn't get to do much of anything now. If I switch it in, it'll most likely just be death fodder. So I was wondering if I wanted to just stay in here and just go for another Mach Punch, or should I try to switch out the Conkeldurr and try to salvage it in a way. I think I could have done that by sacking Sylveon, because looking at what's left of his team, it's not looking like Sylveon can really do much of anything. Not even with the God Bull. Because, again, I think the grass attack moves get buffed, I think, in grassy terrain. I'm not really sure on that, though. But I kind of was fearing that it might have, so I don't know. Either way, I just stayed in and just took out the, or went for the Mach Punch and just lost Conkeldurr. It went down to the Rocky Helmet, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, just getting attacked. As you saw, I went for Flamethrower, which was a move I was anticipating him to go for on the Decidueye, but he kind of just didn't end up going for it. He went for Air Slash instead, which makes sense. It stabs, so yeah. Here, I was wondering what I should send in, because right now that I lost Raikou, I don't really have much for Celesteela, as you can see on my team. The only thing I can hit this thing with is Scizor with Knockoff and Decidueye with Spirit Shackle. But Garchomp has the Fire Blast, because this Garchomp is low-key a mixed attacker, specifically for this this Celesteela. I go for the Fire Blast right here. And personally, I was hoping that I was actually able to take this thing out with what it I think I did invest a little bit in special attack for this thing, including adding the Ivies to like maximum and whatnot. So I was hoping that this Fire Blast would actually be enough to just take this thing out all the way. Unfortunately, that was not the case. So this puts me in another situation where I have to basically like switch out and try to go for this again. Because here, I'm going to try to go for the Fire Blast again. I was actually hesitant to, because I thought he was actually going to want to switch out maybe. And you're going to see that he actually ends up doing so. But nonetheless, I just wanted to freaking not risk it here, because if I switch out and then he takes out my Mon with like either Heavy Slam or Air Slash or something, then that would be, you know, I'd be losing Mons for no reason. He ended up going for the Giga Drain, and I think that's another thing that discouraged me from switching out too, is that he would just be getting free HP back, and I didn't want that. So I just had to play the offensive role and just keep going for Fire Blast. He ends up going into the God Bulu, which I thought was okay, because that means I could get free damage on this. Unfortunately, I do miss the Fire Blast here, and because of that, now I'm not certain if I could two-shot this thing. So because of that, I definitely don't want to stay in, and because of that, I end up just, I believe, hard switching into the Scizor here. Yeah, because there's nothing I can do with Decidueye. Decidueye also is like the one that can kind of do stuff to Celesteela, and I think outspeeds it as well. Whereas Celesteela with Scizor, I think it may outspeed Scizor, and it has Flamethrower, as I saw earlier, so I don't think it was in my interest to send out Decidueye yet against the God Bulu. So instead, yeah, here I switch in Scizor, and he goes for the Hammer Arm, or it's the Wood Hammer actually. It thankfully doesn't do anything, thanks to the fact that it's burned. So here I just go for the knockoff, kind of anticipating him to maybe want to switch in the Volcanion, because yeah, he still has that in his team. And Bullet Punch does feel like an obvious play right here, just to take this thing out. But you're going to see in a bit right here that this thing, or this guy's actually going to switch it, or not switch it out. He's actually going to stay in, risking the Bullet Punch attempt. He just stays in and goes for the close combat, and I'm just like, damn it. I thought I had something going here, but I didn't. I was like a little annoyed, I think, at the time of the damage I was taking, because I was mispredicting a lot here. But I was glad that I got the knockoff regardless, because as you saw, I knocked off a weakness policy, which if this thing survived the Bullet Punch from Scizor, chances are it might have taken out my Scizor, so that way I would have not been able to do much to the Bulu afterwards. I would have had to rely on Decidueye to take it out, or even Garchomp again, which I didn't want, because remember that this is a fairy type, the God Bulu that is, and could, you know, play rough me. And I think if it gets a crit, it might ignore the burn. I'm not really sure on that though. Maybe I would have still lived, but I would have been in range for Volcanion to possibly take me out. So, you know, I didn't want that, obviously. Here I went for another knockoff, hoping he'd now switch in the the Volcanion because, again, I kind of just felt like this was too obvious of a play, especially with the HP that I'm getting back from the grassy terrain. It felt like he would switch in or he would switch out at that point, but he just never did. In fact, here I finally go for the Bullet Punch and he still stays in, so he didn't actually try to like mix things up here, it seemed, which is fine by me. I just needed to get rid of more of his mons. Because if I lost this match, I wanted it to at least be as close as possible. I didn't want it to be another disaster like what happened with the Flex Wall in the last match. That was just a nightmare, honestly. And honestly made me question why I even did this league. But obviously I know why I'm doing it, obviously. It's just so I can get more battles in. So, with draft leagues, it's usually not the end of the world when it comes to getting a win. Unless you go completely like zero and whatever, honestly. But anyway, so the Volcanion now comes in. I went for the knockoff thinking maybe he might try to double switch here. Either way, I don't have much to switch out into anyway, so I just decided to let the scissor go down right here. So here I have to send in Garchomp because Sylveon is not going to appreciate another Sludge Bomb, especially after it got the poison on it. And again, it doesn't really have much to hit it with. Only this thing does. Here, I was in another predicament because he still has the Celesteela in his team. And if I go for Earthquake, he might just want to switch that in and then I won't be able to do absolutely anything. Effectively, this is something of a 50-50 scenario right here, where I have to determine whether or not I want to go for the Dragon Claw or the Earthquake. And ultimately, I decided to go for the Earthquake. Thankfully, he does stay in, and I think he was expecting me to like try to predict him and go for something else. Thankfully, I was able to go for the Earthquake. He does go for the Steam Eruption, which I was hoping would not burn me because that would just end up ruining things. Now here, I try to go for another Earthquake because I want to believe that his Volcanion is weakened and I don't think he's going to want to preserve that anymore. But surprisingly enough, he actually does want to preserve it and just goes into the Celesteela. This was a play I was actually fearing he would make in the other turn, but thankfully he didn't do it. He does it now though, and it does work in his favor because once again I'm forced to switch out. But I think it's here where I decide to, for some reason, send out the Sideway. I think in retrospect I should have just sent in Sylveon and just try to go for the Mystical Fire if I could outspeed the Celesteela. Instead, I just decide to go for the Sideway, which is kind of insane. Maybe I was a little tilted because of the fact that this match was going to time as well. I don't know. But I don't think sending in the Sideway here was the play. I should have probably sacked Sylveon first. Maybe because the timer was running out, and I just wanted to see if I could live the Air Slash should he go for it. But that was still risky, and I don't think I should have done it, honestly, in retrospect. Either way, I did it, and here I just go for the Spirit Shackle just to get as much damage on this thing as possible. Weaken it. Thankfully for me, instead, it just ends up taking it out completely. So that means that its last mon, I think it's Volcanion, and I forgot what the other mon was, I think. He had Volcanion, he had another mon, I think. I don't remember what it was, though. Because I already took out his Tapu Koko, I took out his electric thingy. Oh, it was the Mudstale. Okay, yeah, never mind, yeah. Okay, so Mudstale. I took it out with the Decidueye. He sends it in right here. I could just go for the Leaf Blade. He could have sent in Volcanion here, but if he took out my Volcanion, I just go for Earthquake. And then I think I 2-hit KO the Mudstale from where it's at, even if it gets +1 with the Stamina. So, yeah. And if it for some reason lived and took out my Garchomp, I still had Sylveon. So, yeah. I think maybe that's why I decided to send in Decidueye. Because I think Sylveon would just, I don't know, would have gone down or something. I don't know. The plays were weird here, to say the least, so yeah. But either way, I do end up winning the match. Unfortunately, the match is still a little bittersweet for me, personally, because the match did in fact go to time. The fact that I lost the last match and it did not go to time, it actually finished, and then here I win the match, but it goes to time, kind of feels nasty. Like, I don't like that, honestly. Regardless, though, I already described to you what the scenario would have played out if we had more time. I think I definitely won this match, basically. So, thankfully, we did win. And basically, I'm hoping that for the weeks that follow, I can keep on winning. Get as many wins in this league as possible. Maybe even make the playoffs, actually. Because, you know, I have made it. The last time I did a draft league for Sword and Shield, I do believe I made the playoffs. But, you know, I kind of just got wrecked. So I was kind of just hoping that if I make it this time, I can actually go further this time. We shall see later on. But if you watch this match right now for Sword and Shield, thank you for watching as always. Hope to catch you fellas for another match whenever we get to it. For now, just take it easy and have yourselves a good one.